Hi everyone, I'm going to do a little bit more from this picture from Rita Berman's Meine Reise Durch Europa book. Notice how I say it so fast so you don't notice how badly I'm pronouncing it. In the last video we did these flowers and you can see I finished the whole the whole spray of flowers now, so you can see how it looks. And actually if I push up here you can see how it looks with the blue in the window as well. But what we're going to do today is, I'm just moving my book a little bit, is this one here. Now I'm just holding pencils in my hand. Let's zoom in a little bit. Now there are roses on this bush here, and I'm going to do these in the same colour as this one here and these up here. And you may have noticed that I haven't done that leaf in the window. I haven't decided. I don't know if I can do it green because there's no other green except up here, and there'll be green here. So I'm going to do this green first and see whether I think it's going to work. So I'm just going to start with this one. Let's start with the roses. We do them in the same way that we did the ones higher up on the page. So we start with our ultramarine light. I don't know if you can see that. We're not zoomed in that closely at the minute. And we just do a very light covering of this. It's very straightforward. Now while I'm doing this, I will talk you through what I'm going to do with the rest. The background of the bush will be in green, obviously. I'm going to use the same greens as I used at the top so that it's all coherent and works nicely together. And what that means is that we've got the Veridian and the Phthalo Green. Now I think that it will be better with the darker green as the background and the lighter green as the leaves. And my thought behind that is, I'm going to zoom in a bit so you can see what detailing I'm going to do on these roses. My thought behind that is that the things in the background tend to fade back if they're a bit darker, and in the foreground will be brighter, so nearer perhaps to the light source. So this is the Delft Blue. Oh, sorry, that is blurred. There we go. And I'm going to do all these little details in very much the same way as I did on the top one. So on wherever there's a sort of line and edge, we colour a little bit and we go around the curve like that. So we sort of think about where would be the lower bit of the petal and make that a bit darker, and the centre, because it's going to sort of dip down into the centre if you think about how a rose looks in real. It's a big tip actually if you're colouring something and you want to make it look a little more realistic. Obviously these aren't going to look ultra realistic, is to look at a photo, have a look at how they actually look for real and copy that, because then you'll get a more realistic look. It's and it might sound quite complex, but actually I find it isn't too tricky. You have to not just look at the image as it is though. You need to think about the light and shade, think about the shape and what makes it look like shape with regards to the way that the colours are. It's hard to explain, but don't just sort of rely on having a quick look. Look at it in some detail and it can really help. There we go. There are roses, quite happy with them. They look like they're curled a little bit, and okay. Now I'm going to zoom out the smallest bit so that we can do the whole of the sort of leafy bushy bit as it were and keep it all in camera. Now the two colours that I used, I haven't even said we're using our Castle Arts, this is what we used before. The two colours that I used before were the Veridian and the Phthalo Green. I'm going to use those again. I'm going to use the Veridian first to do all over the background. Now I know we've got these little dots. I'm going to colour over those. I haven't decided what on earth I'm doing with those, whether they're white, whether they're green, whether they're blue. I'm just going to leave them for now and colour over them just because it's a bit easier. And so I'm going to colour the whole of this background area first in this. This isn't going to be my final layer because if you compare this colour with the green up there, it's really different. So we're gonna go over it with the Phthalo Green in a layer in a minute, and hopefully it will all work and look right. So just do this dark a bit. Now another reason why a bush like this might be darker in the sort of background is because you think there'd be a big cluster of leaves and branches, and that would mean there would be shadow and the light couldn't get right into the middle, so it will be dark. And really it would probably be darker towards the center than the edge, but if you color the edge darker then it makes it look more spherical. So you sort of got a choice of one or the other. I'm not going to do either. I'm going to keep it fairly evenly coloured across the whole thing, just because neither of those effects is quite right, I don't think, for this picture. This is just a fun, cute picture, I think. Rita has such a cute drawing style. I think it's really lovely. So I'm just... gosh, it's so sunny in here today. It's really unusual for this time of year to have so much sunshine, but I don't mind autumnal sunshine. It's quite nice. I dislike summer sun. It's too hot for me. I just cannot cope with it. So back with the Phthalo Green now. Oops, I don't want to see that side. I don't want to see that side. I'm going to go all over with this one. Again, still missing out the leaves, but going over those little circles at the moment, as I haven't decided what I'm going to do with those yet. So yeah, I like that autumn is a nice time of year. I think fall is what Americans call it, and it makes sense because things fall off the tree. I assume that's where it comes from. I don't really know. We're very ignorant in the UK with regards to other cultures and customs and names and things. But I love the colours, and this sort of crisp frosts that are coming our way soon. I love crisp frosty mornings, and having to wear a sweater or a jumper and a coat. I wore a jacket this morning actually when I went out to Lanarac, and because I felt a bit chilled. I think I'm getting the children's cold, so I felt a little bit, like you want to wrap up and cuddle up warm. And I got outside. I got sort of not about a quarter of the way to town, and it was absolutely boiling, so I ended up carrying my coat all the way there and back. It was okay, I just slung it over my bag, I was fine, but I was a bit surprised. What's quite fun is on my route into town, I go along the canal path and under a railway bridge, and underneath the railway bridge someone has built or painted a beautiful bookcase, and they put it under there to say book exchange. I think it's a lovely idea. I mean, when we finish with books, we usually pop them into a charity shop, but this is just a different idea, and I thought it was fun. I'm just having a look at this to quite work out what's going on there. I think that might be a brick, so I'm not going to colour it in. Anyway, so a few days ago, I popped a couple of books that I put by for the charity shop into the book exchange, just for a bit of fun. And I had a look today and they'd all gone apart from one. So that was quite fun. I put a pile of comics. We had some old Beanos. They were from the 1980s, which was quite fun. I'm going to do the leaves the same as the ones above. So we're going to go back to the Veridian to do the bottom of each leaf. And so they'd all gone. There was an annual actually, which was still there, a Beano annual. And 2 of the books that I put on had gone. So that was rather nice. I thought it was really nice. And there were a lot of new books on there, because there was a little sign on there saying, do take books, but please leave books as well, because obviously didn't want them all to just disappear. So I hadn't taken any. I did have a look. There was nothing that quite, I think, would appeal to anyone in our family. I'm not a very good reader. All my books are colouring books, or colouring method books, how to colour, or that sort of thing. I don't read many books anymore. I used to read a lot of books, but I just don't have time. My colouring hobby takes up so much of my time. It's so enjoyable. There's very little else I want to do, to be honest. Okay, now we're going to go over with the Phthalo Green. I'm just going to sharpen this as well. I want it to be quite pointy. hit the sharpener on the tripod. My tripod is in a fairly awkward place, so the one leg is right near the top of my book, and the other two are to my right and left, and the book is obviously in the middle, otherwise you wouldn't be able to see it, with the camera hanging down upside down in the tripod. It's quite a fun arrangement. We actually found out why my old camera didn't work. Apparently when it hangs upside down, the things that keep the lens in place don't work, and so the lens wobbles about all over the place, and that's why I was seeing a tremor in my recordings. So there wasn't anything wrong with the camera, it was just not designed to be used upside down in the way that I was using it, because I had been using it in a slightly different, at an angle, and it just wasn't quite working for me in the way I wanted. Now I'm going to go back to the Veridian and I'm going to do some shadows. So under each leaf and flower I want to put a little bit of shadow. I'm going to put some darker areas. I'm also going to make sure there's no white areas, because some of these areas haven't been coloured very well. So under here, look, I don't mind if there's a bit of white on the rose, that's fine, but I don't want any on the green bits. If this doesn't stand out enough, I may pick a darker colour, but we'll see once it's done whether it works. So sometimes I have to peer around the legs of the tripod to see the bit of the page that I'm working on, which is quite fun. And as I say, I do, as you heard, I do knock things on it occasionally. But it works out fine for me, really. I can usually reach what I'm trying to do, and I can angle the camera slightly so that it's not, the book isn't too far away. It's angled a little bit at the moment, I think. But anyway, I'm quite happy with the camera. Now, do those leaves stand out enough? And does that bush? I think that bush needs a little bit more work. I could do it like a mint green or something. I don't think we have anything like that. Have a look. It's a bit too, you don't want anything too yellow. I think I'm going to go for the Castle Green Light. It is quite a yellowy green, but it isn't really, really yellow. I'm just going to go all the way over this. I just think, or despite saying I wanted it to be darker, I just want to blend it together a bit more and try and make it look slightly more different to the leaves that are on it. And while I'm doing this, I'm now going to think seriously about what to do with these little dots. And I think blue might work best. Could do white, but I think this, what would it be if it was white? Whereas I think if I do it blue, it might look like it's little bits of rosebuds or something. But I can't do it in pencil, and I've gone over it in the green. Yeah, I like that. So what I am going to do is use this. This is a Posca pen and it is a light blue colour. Just going to shake it up a little bit and try it out on my scrap paper that I have beside me. And I'm just going to, and because it's light blue, hopefully it will just stand out from that green a little bit. And we'll have a look when it's done and see whether we need any more dots. I think that's enough. Maybe white would be better. It doesn't show up that well, does it? Let's have a think when we've done the rest. So we need to do the stem and the bow and the pot. So the stem I'm going to do in the same browns that I did for the cat. I shall show you the cat. There he is. So I started the cat with a cinnamon colour. So I'm going to start the stalk with that colour too. Trunk. It's not a stalk, is it? It's a trunk. Like that. It's just a little bit. It's only small. And the cat also has sepia on it, which I am going to grab. And we're going to use that to just try to make the trunk look slightly rounded like this. There. Maybe a little bit more coming in. There we go. So that's trunk. Now the bow, I am going to do blue. Will I use the same blues as I did for the cat is my question. Probably, coincidentally, I might end up doing that, but I'm maybe not going to try too hard. So I'm going to start with the very light Cobalt Turquoise for the bow, and I'm going to do that colour all over. I'm not pressing too hard. I don't want to burnish the colour into the paper. There's a leaf there that I haven't done, isn't there? So we'll tackle that in a minute. Because I want to go over it with other colour blues, so I just want a light layer, because there are some areas that I won't do any darker than this. So I just want a layer all over to start with. Now that brick bit needs dealing with. Now the bricks are rose pink, so I'm just going to go in there a little bit of pink like that, and that leaf, so we need a bit of Veridian and the Pthalo Green. There we go. Let's see, is that all working? Still need a bit of rose. That isn't quite, I think it's because I wasn't sharp. I couldn't quite get into exactly where I want to go. There we go. That's it. I think this bit needs doing too. Probably like that. There we go. Right. Now the pot. Now, do we? Oh, sorry, the rest of the bow, not the pot. I'm going to grab the sky blue and do a few details. I shall just sharpen, because we've got quite a small space to work in. Now I would think about where the shadows are going to be on a bow. So here it's gathered in to form that knot, so it would be darker. So we're going to do that a little darker, and the same here, like that. And then these two here would be slightly darker, I think, here and here. And at the bottom of the knot, just where there might be some shade. And then I'm going to go back to the, sorry, hitting the tripod again, the Cobalt Turquoise, and just blend that in a little bit. So extend that darker bit a little bit with the turquoise, fading it out. So just going over the edge of the turquoise and then reducing the layers and pressure as we extend it out to the rest of the item. There, that's it for the bow. Nice and simple. And the pot. Now, do we do the pot? Let's zoom out so you can have a look and think about what you would do. So, do we do the pot? Sorry, the light is making it quite washed out at the top. Do we do the pot to match the shop or to match the blue? Now, if you were that shop owner, what would you do? And I think I would draw it in to match the shop, and I think I'm going to do it purple. We've got a lot of pink in the around here, so purple it is. I'm going to zoom back in. The glare of the light seems to disappear as we zoom in, which is really interesting. Let's zoom in. We've got an extra good zoom on that last little bit. Okay, so this pot here. Now I think I'm just going to do my favourite purple. Now this one is going to be the one that wears down the quickest in this set. I'm absolutely sure of it. This is my Purple Lake Deep. Now I'm going to start by doing all of the pot in a light layer. and then I can look at it as I go and think about where I'm going to do darker and lighter areas. And I'm thinking these arched areas will be darker. I'm thinking they're probably set in to the pot rather than being on the surface, so they would have shadow and therefore be darker. So that's one thing I am thinking about. I also think this bit is the back of the pot. So I'm going to do that a little darker because it would have less light because it's further back. I'm going to sharpen my pencil because it's very blunt. Okay. Now I'm going to go into these. What I'm going to do is do it darker on one side and at the top than the rest, but still make it darker than the whole of the rest of the pot. So this side, go that way and that way, like that. Now for the base, I think I'm going to do it darker on the edges and lighter towards the middle. This main part of the pot needs smoothing a little, and I think we'll go for a lighter shade to do that so that we don't go too dark. So I'm going to use the lavender colour for that. I'm just going to sharpen it, and it will sort of keep it muted but will help to just burnish it in a little bit. And you can see it's still a nice pretty purpley colour. We may have to make those, the bits we want darker, to look even more dark to make it stand out. I think what I'm going to do is just go really dark in the whole space, and then we'll get that contrast. Like that. And now I am going to put it in full frame, have a look at it and have a think about how I feel about that, but I'm happy with that. White. I am going to change those dots to white. Now the joy with gel pen is that it writes on top, so you can just go over the top of what you've done already. Just checking I've missed one there. Let's see, is that it? Yeah, I think that looks a bit better because it doesn't jump right out really brightly, but it just shows there's something there. The others just merged into the background. So there's our little plant pot. So I hope you enjoyed that. I had ever such fun doing that one. It's so cute. Thank you so much for watching. Have an absolutely wonderful day and happy colouring.